My wife gave birth to a black baby while I'm fully white. When I asked for a DNA test, she snapped, "You're being dramatic. If you don't trust me, leave." So I did. A few days later, I learned the truth. And when the real father stepped forward, the entire family shattered in seconds. Hello, Reddit I plus here. I was 36 when everything I thought I understood about loyalty, trust, and the woman I married collapsed in the space of a single afternoon. Her name was Maren. She was 34, sharp, warm when she wanted to be, and always good at hiding storms behind a practiced smile. We met 8 years earlier at a charity auction where she had mistaken me for one of the organizers. I was a quiet furniture maker who avoided crowds. Somehow she pulled me into her orbit, and within a year we married in a small ceremony near a cliff overlooking the sea. The day our child was born began like a dream. The hospital lights were soft, the smell of disinfectant floated in the air, and the hallway hummed with a low, mechanical calm. I stood beside her bed, her fingers clamped around mine, her breathing tight and fast. I whispered things I barely remember now, promises and encouragement, trying to match her rhythm and stay grounded. When the baby arrived, the first sound was a short, sharp cry. The second was silence so heavy that it pushed against my chest. Everyone smiled. The doctor, the nurses, Maren. She was glowing, radiant, exhausted, triumphant. A new mother, cradling a new life, but something in me twisted. The child in her arms was beautiful, small, soft. His eyes were dark. His complexion was far deeper than mine, warm bronze with curls forming gently at the crown of his head. I am pale as driftwood and come from a family where everyone burns in the sun. Nothing about this child echoed me, not even faintly. A nurse stepped forward and said, "Congratulations, sir. Your son is perfect." She extended him toward me. My hands stayed by my sides. Maren's eyes found mine. Something flickered there, fear, a warning. Or maybe she already knew. "Hold him," she whispered. I could not. My body refused to move. My heart was pounding with a rhythm that made my vision blur. The clock above her bed ticked in tiny movements, and with every passing second I could feel the ground shift beneath me. I knew that whatever we had built together had fractured in an instant. That night, after visiting hours ended and the nurses dimmed the room, I finally spoke. "Maren, I need to ask something. Who is the father?" Her laugh came out brittle and too sharp. "You are being dramatic. Stop acting like this. If you cannot trust me, then leave." Her voice was calm, but her fingers trembled against the blanket. She turned her face away, the same gesture she used when she wanted to dodge responsibility. I had seen it during arguments about money, schedules, anything she did not want to confront. I stood there for a long moment, breathing in the cold scent of the room. Then I nodded. No yelling, no accusations, only quiet. I left the hospital without telling anyone. The automatic doors slid open and the night air hit me like ice water. I walked until my legs were numb. 3 days later, while she was still recovering, I ordered a DNA kit. One swab for me, one for her, one for the child she insisted was mine. While waiting for the results, I pretended everything was normal. I answered messages from friends and family who congratulated us. I bought groceries. I sanded down a table I had been working on. I visited the hospital and forced a smile so convincing that even Maren seemed relieved. But every night when I closed my eyes, I saw that room again. The clock, the silence, the child in her arms who looked nothing like me, and the lie that had taken shape in the space between us. The results arrived on a Thursday morning. I opened the envelope at my workshop, where sawdust still clung to the floorboards. At first, my hands were steady. Then they were not. Probability of paternity, 0%. The words were blunt and merciless, but the next page cut even deeper. The lab had matched part of the infant's DNA with a file already in their system. A family history panel performed 5 years earlier. One Maren and I both submitted as part of a wellness program. The other genetic contributor was a relative of mine. Not a distant cousin, not some half-forgotten branch of the family tree. The partial match indicated someone as close as a sibling. My breath left my body. My knees weakened. I sank onto the nearest stool. I have only one sibling, my younger brother, who worked with me in the family workshop for years. A man I trusted more than anyone. A man who used to sit beside me when we were kids and carve little boats out of leftover wood. He had been spending time with Maren while I was traveling for a contract. She said they got along well. She said it made her feel closer to my family. I never imagined betrayal could come from 2 people at once. I carried the results home that evening. The house was quiet when I entered, filled with the soft hum of the refrigerator and the distant creak of old floorboards. Maren was in the living room, rocking the baby in her arms with a serene expression that now looked like a mask. She saw the envelope in my hand and her face drained of color. "I know," I said. Her lips parted, but no words came. The next sound in the house was the baby's small, sleepy sigh. Then silence, thick and suffocating. "Why?" I finally asked her. She began to cry, not the sobs of remorse, but the panicked gasps of someone caught in a tightening net. She told me it was an accident, a lapse in judgment, something that happened only once. She said she did not know how to tell me. She said she thought it would break me, but the truth was that it did not break me. It emptied me. I left that night, packed a bag, and walked out with the same quiet resolve I had used in the hospital. When the cold air touched my face again, I felt a strange, unfamiliar freedom. Days later, my brother arrived at my workshop, pale and shaking. He tried to apologize, tried to explain, but his words tangled on his tongue. I did not yell. I simply told him that trust, once severed, does not grow back the same way. The fallout was catastrophic. Maren tried to call, sent messages filled with desperation and guilt. My parents were shocked into silence. My brother avoided family dinners, and the child, innocent of everything, would grow up in a situation shaped by their choices. As for me, I rebuilt myself slowly. Sanded wood, crafted tables, worked long hours, let time thicken around the wound. I learned something important. A lie can echo louder than any truth, and sometimes the quietest decisions are the ones that free you. The months that followed were quiet on the surface, yet heavy underneath. I threw myself into work at the workshop. I carved, sanded, stained, and polished until my fingers cracked. People complimented my craftsmanship more than ever, saying the pieces carried a depth they had never seen before. They did not know that every curve and grain was shaped by the remnants of a life I had walked away from. Maren did not let go easily. At first, it started with small things. A message sent late at night that read, "Can we talk?" Another one 2 days later, "You cannot just disappear from the child." Then a longer one where she wrote 3 paragraphs without taking responsibility for anything. I did not answer. Silence was the only language that felt safe. 2 weeks later, she switched tactics entirely. She filed for temporary custody arrangements even though I already had proof the child was not mine. She claimed I had abandoned fatherly duties, that I was unstable emotionally, that she needed legal structure to protect the baby from my unreliability. The summons showed up on a Monday morning in a crisp envelope that lay on my doorstep like a white insult. My lawyer, a patient woman named Rena, skimmed the documents and sighed softly. She told me this was a fear-driven move. She said some people use the legal system the way they use manipulation, a tool for control, a tool to bend reality to their liking. The hearing lasted 28 minutes. When the judge asked for proof that I was the biological father, Maren shifted in her seat. She tried to argue that DNA was not everything, that emotional bonds mattered more. The judge asked if she had any evidence I had formed one. She had none. The case was dismissed, not postponed, not reevaluated. Dismissed. Outside the courthouse, she rushed after me, holding the stroller with one trembling hand. "Please, let us talk for a moment," she said. I kept walking. Her voice rose behind me. "You cannot leave me with all this." It was a mistake, a moment of weakness. I thought you two could repair things. I thought time would make you see things differently. Time had done the opposite. It had sharpened everything. For weeks after the failed court stunt, she switched into a different form of manipulation. She tried the sentimental route. She sent me pictures of the child wearing the knitted cap my mother had made for my first niece. She sent long paragraphs about memories she thought would pull at me, like the time we went to the coast for our anniversary, or the late nights we spent planning a home we would never build. She even sent audio recordings, her voice soft, trembling just enough to seem heartfelt. In one she said, "I know you think what I did was unforgivable, but if you could just sit with me and let me explain, maybe you would see that we can rebuild everything. Maybe we could even find our way back to each other." I deleted the messages without opening them. I learned to recognize emotional traps better than I ever had. 3 weeks later, she escalated again. She showed up at my workshop unannounced, carrying the baby in her arms. The bell above the door chimed, and I looked up from the table leg I was shaping. She stepped inside with a trembling smile. The child was asleep. She whispered, He deserves a chance to know you. I know he is not yours by blood, but you were supposed to be his father, and I know you can still be that. I wiped sawdust off my hands and stepped back, putting distance between us. Marin, I said, you made your choices, and I am making mine. Something in her face cracked then. Not tears, not regret, something like disbelief that her usual methods were failing. She looked around the workshop as if searching for the part of me that once followed her willingly. She did not find it. She left without another word. But she was not done. A month later, I received a letter from her lawyer accusing me of emotional abandonment of a child she now admitted was not mine. She insisted the court force mediation between us to create a co-parenting plan based on the bond she claimed I once had with the infant. The judge denied that request as well. The reason was clear. The law does not bend to fantasies. When that failed, she attempted one final move, the desperate one. She showed up at my parents' house during a family dinner, carrying the child in a blanket and crying loudly enough that neighbors opened their curtains. My parents were stunned. They tried to comfort her, but she sank to the ground in the front yard, wailing that I had ruined her life by leaving her to face reality alone. I arrived 20 minutes later, after my mother called me in a quiet voice filled with worry. I stood in the driveway watching Marin rock back and forth as she clutched the baby. My father asked her to stand. My mother tried to soothe her. I did not step forward. Marin looked up at me through wet eyes and whispered, "Please, for the love we had, for the life we built, tell me there is something left." There was a time when that plea would have broken me, but betrayal hardens a person in places they did not know existed. "There is nothing left," I said. Those words ended everything. She left that night without creating another scene. She did not contact me again. No messages, no legal threats, no attempts to lure me back into the ruins of our marriage. She faded from my life, like smoke from a dying fire. In the stillness that followed, I rebuilt my world quietly. The workshop became my sanctuary again. Friends returned. Laughter returned. Even the light through the windows felt different, less filtered by old grief. I learned that peace is not loud, it is patient. It waits in the background until you are ready to stand in it. And now, when I think of the past, I feel something unexpected. Not anger, not loss, relief, pure and complete.